So 2024 has ended up being a year chocked full of live service game releases. A lot of them not that great. I'm sure you know the ones I'm talking about. Others surprisingly good, like Helldivers 2, and others that seem to have a lot of potential, but are just big question marks right now. One of them that has had the most eyes on it has been Marvel Rivals. This game right here that I have access to thanks to a code for the closed beta that I was able to get my mitts on. And in case you're not familiar, this is the game that plays very similar to Overwatch, but with Marvel characters. It's also coming from NetEase, which is a big company that does a ton of live service games that are some of the biggest games in the world, especially when you look globally. So it has a lot of potential. And did I mention that it's also free, which is a good price for live service games? Concord. So I thought we would check it out today. I'm not being sponsored or anything to try this out. I am just here to play it and share my thoughts. I guess I should give a little bit of background. I play a good amount of Overwatch 2. It's one of the only games that like me and my brothers, sisters, and wife all played together and can have a good time with. And even though the game's not amazing, I'm pretty familiar with that one. So I'm all the more interested in seeing what this game has to offer. Now, so far I've done a couple of rounds just to warm up and get an idea of what we're playing with here, and I have some thoughts. We're gonna launch into a match here in a second, but to be clear, this is a closed beta. So the only people that are in the game right now were invited because they signed up early or because they had a friend that had an extra code, that type of thing. You can also see that just like almost every other live service game nowadays, there is a season tab with all sorts of events. There's heroes outlined and described. There's team ups, which are interesting because you can basically create like small pairs of characters that work together in interesting ways. So for example, if we want to look at the ammo overload one right here, team up abilities, you can see that with this one, ammo invention, Rocket Raccoon throws an ammo overload device in the target direction upon entering the device's range. The Punisher character specifically receives the buffs of infinite ammo and fast firing. And this is what it looks like from the Punisher's perspective when they drop that. So it encourages you to actually embrace synergies between characters when you're doing character selection, which is kind of a cool idea. And you can see there's multiple of these. Some of them include 3 characters, all themed around like gamma radiation in this case. So Hulk charges Doctor Strange and Iron Man with gamma radiation. When Doctor Strange uses Maelstrom of Madness, he unleashes excess gamma energy. And when Iron Man uses Armor Overdrive, he will initiate a gamma upgrade. So everybody benefits from that synergy between character selection, which is just, again, kind of a cool idea. I kind of like it. On the flip side, this could lead to situations basically where everybody just starts selecting the same characters every single match. So there's not a whole lot of variety, but I guess time will tell if this changes. There's a bunch of these synergies. As you can see here, there's actually 3 pages of them. And so there's a good variety, and I'm interested to see how this plays in the game itself. As for the characters themselves, it's pretty much the standard Marvel lineup you would expect. We've got the core people from like the movies that you probably recognize, but one thing you'll take away from this is that like the art style and art direction is on point. They've very much embraced their own little niche here. And I appreciate that. It's not just like a straight copy of what you'd see in other games or other superhero inspired games. It's sort of like a mixture of cel shaded with 3D. It looks good. And of course, what live service game is complete without skins that can be unlocked through like battle passes, or I'm sure purchased in the store. And speaking of the store, we can go there. You see we have costumes all listed here. So we can see like a Groot skin you can see and compare those. So if you care about skins, that's something for you to check out. They're also doing other things like tournaments that they're going to have going on in the next couple of days while the beta is running. Like this thing is pretty feature loaded, which is an interesting contrast over like Concord, where I did the closed beta of that and the open beta for that game. And in both cases, there were like 3 game modes. Really only one was playable because there were so few players online and matchmaking times were so long. And even then they weren't that different. There wasn't really a ranked mode. If you pulled out of matches, there was no punishment. There were just a lot of pretty basic features for a game like that that just weren't present. So I want to see if that stuff is present here. Obviously, if we go to the play button, you can fill out your team and select what you want to do. Beyond that, you can see we have a practice range if you want to practice. We also have different modes, conquest. We have a competitive mode that we can get, and we can also go into custom matches and games if we see fit. I think this is like way too much for me to sink my teeth into in this video, but I mean, this is not something that even Concord had. So it does seem like there's a freaking lot of stuff in here to do right off the bat. I don't know how varied the custom matches are, but nonetheless, they're there. But at its core, this is going to be very similar to what you've seen in like Overwatch. It's going to be, in this case, a 6v6 team match where you're usually escorting a payload, things like that. But let's see how quickly we can get into a match. I'm going to hit start. For Concord, it was anywhere between 3 and 10 minutes. So I'll hit start. We're in the queue. No cuts. Okay, touche. Okay. That's what you want. You press the button and it works. Okay, gotta give them that. And here we can select our team. In this case, I'll go Iron Man, and you can see I can do a team up request, which encourages other people in the team to select characters that, again, pair with that or have those synergy abilities with my character. They can choose to do that or not. It's totally up to them. Nonetheless, you can kind of signal that during character selection, which is kind of cool. I'm saying that a lot because I don't really know all of what I should say, because I don't really cover live service games a whole lot, but I am relatively familiar with this structure of game because I do play it pretty frequently with my friends and family. And I mean, right from the outset, you can see all the similarities to a game like Overwatch. And I think that's sort of the elephant in the room with any game like this, is that it's going to draw comparisons to those games from which it took a lot of inspiration, let's just say, that kind of pioneered the genre itself. And in this case, it seems like they're doing some stuff that's different, like those synergies. They're doing some stuff like much more varied character selections. They're also doing things like, of course, the superhero coat of paint. They're doing things like destructible environments. Oh, I got. So for example, I'm going to go over to that bridge and I'm going to shoot it and try to show you how you can destroy the bridge. And so they're adding some things, but at its core, if it's just a solid game, I think that it can find an audience, specifically if it's trying to do things that are just a little bit different or capitalize on the weaknesses of some of those other games like Overwatch 2. I mean, just go to the review page on Overwatch 2 and you'll be shocked at how negative some of the reactions are. People are not super stoked on that game. I'll tell you what, they're not that impressed. It's got like 19% positive reviews. It's pretty bad. But if this game comes along and has a pretty solid offering at launch, that's going to do a lot for people. I mean, you can see this, like you can actually destroy buildings and objects. He's got the web still strung onto it so it stays up, but even this bridge, you can shoot it apart. So you can actually destroy cover or means for certain characters to get to different places in the map. Like, that's a unique spin on this kind of formula, and that's something that I've wanted to see, like just something original, something different. In this case, like actually destroying the building so that she gets knocked off of it and can't snipe from it anymore. Little things like that are super, super cool to me. Obviously, though, with a live service game, there are other things to consider, such as long-term support, player interest, matchmaking, stuff like that. And that's something that is much more up in the air and I think remains to be seen. Oh, I can't fly through there. I was trying to get away and hide. I can't do it. Now, there's also other quality of life things that I mentioned earlier, such as punishments when you leave a match early. And that is actually something that they've accounted for here. You can see actually, oh God, Jesus, what happened? Okay, that was kind of cool. Okay, I'll give them that. You can see if I go to the menu and I go leave game, it'll actually pop up with a warning. Leaving the match now will flag you as a deserter and you might face penalties. And these penalties get like subsequently worse and more severe. So initially it'll be like a 2-minute timeout. You can't matchmake for 2 minutes. After that, it becomes even more severe and it might go to 5 minutes or 10. Jeez, they're melting me. And so there's actual consequences for pulling out of a match, which is again one of those like no duh features to have in a live service game like this. But in a game like Concord, there wasn't anything like that. If you pulled out of a match, there was no punishment, no consequence. You could just get away with it. And then the whole match will be ruined for everybody through no fault of your own. Like it was kind of infuriating, honestly. Okay, I ulted. I guess I should also say there are ults in the game. What was even that? Okay, we're totally screwed. They keep melting us the second we get close. They have like all the synergies going. We have like none of them. And we also kind of suck, which doesn't help. Yep, we lose. Yep. Well played, everyone. That was good. You bested us. Okay, time out real quick. I wanted to check why the matchmaking times are so good right now. And granted, this is just PC. I'm just looking at PC right now. This playtest is on Xbox, PlayStation, it's everywhere. And right now, it just opened 39 minutes ago, and it's already up to almost 50,000 players. Again, just through Steam. Compare that to another game that's trying to fit into a very similar niche, the Overwatch inspired niche, and is also costing $40, specifically Concord. During their open beta, they peaked at just under 2,400, and matchmaking time showed. And I would bet you if I refresh, it's going to be higher. Yep, it goes up to 51,000. More and more people are flooding in. And again, this is with a very limited supply of invitations. This is a closed beta that they're doing right now. It's not even an open beta like that other one we were just looking at. Like, that's what you would hope to see for a live service game. And I think it shows that people are at least interested in this game because it's at least something with like a unique flavor. The characters are familiar and yet have interesting abilities and stuff. And it's also a very high effort game that is free to play. So you can jump in, try it, and not sweat it if it's not for you. And that's totally like exactly what you would hope to see in a game like this. You know, other people will point at previous live service games like an Overwatch back in 2015 and be like, well, they charged whatever it was, $60 for that game or $40 for it back in the day. And it's like, yeah, but that was a decade ago. Times have changed. Back then, that was pre-Fortnite, that was pre-Warzone, that was pre like frickin' whatever it's called, PUBG. None of those games existed yet. And I think that that's like important to remember. That's a factor to consider. Games change, perceptions of value change. And nowadays, live service games, it's just assumed that they're gonna be free to play since it's so competitive, since the odds that you connect with it and become obsessed with it are pretty low. People don't want to waste 40, 50, 60 bucks on a game like that they might end up liking, which is why these devs kind of have to take a leap of faith with it to a certain extent and put it out for free, freely available to everybody, and trust that it's going to work out. You can see there we have a synergy activated. I keep calling it synergy. That's not technically what it's called, but we have the team abilities unlocked because we have the right characters selected that will work well together. So we should be in a good spot. If I press F1, you can also see all of my different abilities. I've got element guns. I've got a passive, enhances the rebirth power of Star-Lord and Mantis, granted them power of Cocooned Revival, and then engage in free flight and lock onto enemies in sight with the Galactic Legend ultimate ability. I have rocket propulsion, fire frenzy of shots with E, causing damage, and stellar shift, dodge in the direction of movement, swiftly reload. Okay. That's pretty cool. Okay, I like that. What about this? Little flipperoonie with a reload. Cool. Now, as for performance, right now, I occasionally hit a little choppy bits. Oh, baby. And generally, it's running pretty well. It's not running badly. It's just that I have this thing cranked, like with all of the lumen, ray tracing, whatever crap turned on, and I think it shows. Jeez, I went off on that one. I like Peter Quill, tell you what. Wowza canowza. But if I go into settings and I go display and down to graphics quality, if I go to like medium and then enter to apply, hopefully it doesn't crash the game, back out, honestly, it doesn't look that much different. And it's running very, very smoothly. I can put that up on screen. We're locked at 120, which is the maximum for this. and it looks to be working pretty well. Now, in terms of balance, that's one where I'm a little less solid right now. It does seem like some characters are very, very good and others are just not really doing it. It's probably because I suck. That's definitely a big part of it. But like, I'm popping off with him, whereas with frickin' Iron Man, I would struggle bussing hard. So it could just be that that match was disproportionately powerful, or that other team was disproportionately powerful. I'm not sure, but this definitely feels much, much better, much more powerful. I'll give him that. So it could just be, you know, a skill issue. It could also be that the characters actually are a little bit imbalanced, but, or unbalanced. I can't talk. I don't know what I'm saying. But anyway, if I go back to my settings and I crank this back to ultra and then apply, now you'll see the frames go down to like 100-ish frames, sometimes down into the 90s. Still obviously like very, very playable, but it has a lot more dips, like sudden dips when you have it cranked. Whereas when you have it on lower settings, specifically with like the lumen ray tracing stuff turned off, you will have much more consistent frames. When lumen's turned on, there's random drops where it'll drop like 10 frames really quickly and then get back and recover just fine. It's pretty inconsistent. Dude, look at that. That's like the Reaper ult, but for him, it's just a regular ability. I will say it's much more frantic than I was expecting it would be. Like, I really didn't think it would be this chaotic, but it very much is. It gets pretty crazy pretty quickly. And you're zipping around really fast and dying. We got this, though. We got 0.3 meters to go. Yeah, there we go. Didn't even need to be there. They did it without me. Booyakasha. I mean, honestly, I'm having a good time. I think it's gonna depend on whether or not my friend group connects with it and finds it interesting, whether they like stick with it and we play it during the play test. But honestly, like, I'm not unimpressed. It's pretty solid, and like I said, being free to play makes it much more interesting, much more intriguing, because people can just try it and see if they like it, and if they don't, they just uninstall it. Okay, so it is now 10:30 roughly p.m. We've been playing Marvel Rivals for all evening. Since I put my kids to bed, we booted up and started playing with some friends. We had a party of 5, and this is of course a 6v6 matchup. So we had one rando that would come into our team, and we've played a lot more. I've experimented with a lot of other characters, and I've actually found out some like really cool stuff I didn't know about before. Like if you go to somebody's career page and then history, you can actually go through previous matches. As you can see, we had a pretty rough go of it towards the end of tonight, but you can go into matches and just hit the play button, and you can go back through a full recording of the match, even with like little highlights of when people were killed in the match. You can toggle to different player views. You can go free cam if you want. So if you want to do that, we could go bird's eye view to go down over here. Free cam, I can control it this way. Okay. And you can just rewatch the entire match in its entirety. If I want to go to my viewpoint, I can see what I was doing. I swap over to Earl, and I can see that. I swap over to Iron Cyclops. I can see that. Dominate, PD Griffin, or other members on the other team. You can swap between all of these, and you can go back through full recordings of all of these games that you've played. Now, this isn't anything like crazy new. This is something that's been done in other games where basically they have all of the happenings of the match recorded in a file that can then be saved. So they're not capturing like video footage of the matches, but rather they're capturing the actual inputs and movements to recreate the matches in real time, which is what this is doing here. And I mean, they've got director mode on or off. You can go back through all of this and you can just study what happened. If there was somebody you thought was cheating, you can go back through and test it, see how that player was playing from start to finish. Like, this is a dream come true as far as maintenance and support, and also confidence from players to know that what they're playing is fairly balanced and that everybody's, you know, going and handling the same thing at the same time. It's really, really cool. And I think that that's a feature I've not heard anything about, but I thought it was badass when I saw it. So I figured I'd share it with you. Another thing that's super, super crucial are synergies with these team up abilities. If you don't have these running during a match, especially after you play some and you start to get placed in more challenging matchups, you're gonna struggle. Like, you gotta have these going. You need to have these team up abilities selected and catered to. And when you get that figured out, things pop off, things go great. The matches are super dynamic and interesting, but you gotta do that. You can't just pick willy-nilly. And other than that, we basically played one game mode for like 2 hours roughly and had a great time. Like, honestly, I had fun tonight. And after this, I'm like, yeah, I'll play more of this. I'll put Overwatch on hold. I think I can get some other people into this because it's just different. It's dynamic. There's some new stuff to learn and new dynamics to consider. And I just personally find that refreshing. And when you pair with that, the fact that matchmaking times are so freakishly fast, it makes it really easy to just get in and going and play a match or a round or two and then shift around. I don't know what this is going to look like over the next week or two. I don't know if they're going to continue sending out closed playtest keys to people to keep player numbers high. I don't know if they're just going to see what retainment's like. I really don't know. But what I do know is that I'm pretty impressed. I'm having fun with it. The fact that it's free is really compelling. And you know what? Because it's free when it launches, I think it's just going to be a solid, like, yeah, check it out. Try it. If you like these kinds of games, give it a shot. I think you might be pleasantly surprised. And if you're not that impressed, no big deal. You can just uninstall it and move on. And that's the magic of games that don't cost anything in the live service space. You can risk it because it's only your time that you're potentially wasting. And even then, if you try a game that you're iffy on, and it's just okay, it wasn't a total waste of time. You tried something new. You had maybe a little bit of fun. It just wasn't a perfect match made in heaven for you, but at least it didn't cost you anything out of your wallet. And I think that that's how this should be. I think games need to approach it this way. If they're going to go live service, if they're going to try to get you hooked on paid like cosmetics and stuff, offer the game for free. I think that's a fair trade-off to make. And I'm just generally pretty impressed with this. I had a good time tonight. So let me know in the comments if you're going to be checking out Marvel Rivals yourself. And if you don't have a playtest key, head over to our live stream, Luke Stevens Live. I'll have it linked below. I stream multiple times a week. We have a great time. The channel passed 100,000 subs just a couple of weeks ago. We're popping off over there. It's a great time. But I bet you I can get some extra playtest keys to give away. So if you want one, come over to the stream. I might be able to hook you up and give some away. So go check that out when you see this video go live. But with all that said, thank you for watching. I love you all desperately. Thank you for making my dreams a reality every gosh darn day. I love you. I'll see you soon. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.